And it'll start recording. So it's recording now. When you want to stop it, then you just hit this again.
Toastmasters meeting on the 9th of December, our second to the last one for the year. And I see some of the people are starting to have their festive ties. I will never wear a singing tie again because I stayed in church and the hymnal hit it and it went off. Rather embarrassed. But look forward to hearing Courtney's icebreaker speech and the moments of truth from Chris, and we'll hear some inspiration from Tanya. But first we're going to bring up Joel and have him do our word of the day.
The word of the day is incurable. It actually has two meanings. The first one is an adjective meaning has no remedy. The second one is a person with an incurable disease. I chose to illustrate only the first example because it has more widespread use. I picked two cases of people who have given up hope. The first is a terrorist who wants to destroy a government, an incurable government, that keeps him impotent. The second is a poorly educated white male who votes for Trump. Who wants to destroy a political system that keeps him poor. I hope you'll enjoy using the word incurable.
Thank you, Joel. And I guess I could be called an incurable ham up front? Maybe not. Our timer for today is Hiwa, and she'll come up and explain her role today.
I'm your timer today. So for the speaker, if you have 2 minutes left, I'm going to show green card. If you have 1 minute left, I'm going to show green card and yellow card and a yellow light. If you reach the end of your speech time, I'm going to show you the red card and have red light. And if you pass the time, 1 minute, I'm going to hit the buzzer. And for the table topic, usually 1 to 2 minutes. If you speak for 1 minute, I'm going to show the green card and the blue light. If you get to 1 minute, 30 seconds, show you the yellow card, yellow lights. You got 2 minutes, you're going to have the red card and the red lights. If you pass 1 minute, you're going to hit the button. For the evaluators, it's usually 2 to 3 minutes. So if you get to 2 minutes, you're going to have the green card and green light. If you get to 2 minutes and 30 seconds, it's yellow card and yellow lights. You get to 3 minutes, you're going to have red card and red lights. You pass 1 minute, you're going to hit the buzzer. Thank you.
Thank you. And for our humor and inspiration, Tanya is going to come up and give us an inspirational.
Incurable romantics. I never thought about the incurable political position political system, because I think I'm also an incurable positivist. And with that, I would like to inspire you this afternoon. Henry Ford once said, "Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right." What about you? Are your thoughts holding you back from fulfilling your dreams? Or are they pushing you to pursue them? Norman Vincent Peale is an inspirational author, and he asks us to check our phraseology. He says, watch your manner of speech. If you wish to develop a peaceful state of mind, start each day by affirming peaceful, contented, and happy attitudes, and your days will tend to be pleasant and successful. Never talk to feet. Instead, use words like hope, belief, faith, victory. There's a good amount of power in the words that you use. If you use negative words, you tend to feel more negative, and you find more negativity in your personal world. If you use positive and uplifting words, you tend to feel those emotions. This may sound a bit corny or even silly, but when you get into the habit of actually using more positively charged words, you find that it affects your mood and your outlook on things. Whether you realize it or not, you are talking to yourself all day long. Your self-talk creates your personal reality. Is it time to rewire your brain and create new thoughts and habits to help you bring what you do want into your life, as opposed to what you don't want? Remember, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Thank you very much. I'm going to remember that one. And now we have the privilege of having Courtney come up and give her icebreaker speech. She's requested 5 to 7 minutes and has titled it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and the honored guests. A little bit about me before we begin. I grew up and I was raised in Illinois. I went to college in Illinois, and I immediately moved to Minnesota right after I graduated to work at Mayo. And I work in the TB and mycology lab right now. As some of you may or may not know, sometimes TB can be incurable.
Yeah.
And also, I work in mycology, which means I work with fungus. So because I work with fungus, that means I'm a fungi. Anyway, I digress. There are 5 things that I would use to describe the kind of person that I am that I would like to share with you today. Number 1, fantastic driver. 2, short order cook. 3, wife. 4, mother. 5, graduate student. Number 1, fantastic driver. I'm from Illinois, which means I learned how to drive from Illinois, specifically the suburbs of Chicago, which means I'm an excellent driver. I'm also a little bit of a fast driver. I may or may not use my turn signals when I'm supposed to, but that doesn't mean I'm a bad driver, right? Excellent. That just means, let's see, how should I put it? I have an expertise in picking which rules of the road are really the important ones. Number 2, I am a short order cook. About 16 years ago, I actually went to culinary school, and I absolutely love to cook. Little did I know, 16 years ago, that I would become an expert short order cook for 2 of the pickiest eaters in the free world, known as my children, and a husband who eats maybe 5 to 7 different dishes on a good week. While I love to cook, I will not always try what I cook. For example, I just made a new recipe the other day called quick kimchi pickles. Spicy, right? Sriracha, seedless cucumbers, toasted sesame seed oil, fresh garlic, fresh ginger. Sounds great. I don't know, because I wasn't going to try it. What did I do? How did I know this was going to be good? I did what the rest of us do. We bring it in for our coworkers and say, look what I made, try some. Lucky for me, it turned out they were a great success. Everybody really liked them. They smelled great, but I still wasn't going to try them. 3rd and 4th go together. I'm a wife and a mother. I met my husband on November 2nd. It was a Saturday. It was a Halloween party. We went on our first date Wednesday, November 8th, and he proposed on Christmas Eve 6 weeks later. The next year, I said yes. The next year, 53 weeks to the day, we got married. A year later, we bought our first house. A year later, we had our first daughter. And 3 years later, we had our son. So if anybody ever tells you that the bullet train to love does not work, it's currently working for me. But I can tell you this story because we're still together. If we ever split up, I'm not telling this story anymore. This is going to be my biggest kept secret. Finally, I am a graduate student. I am currently working on my master's in occupational safety and health, and I have an incurable curiosity about safety. While I don't have a lot of real-world experience when it comes to safety, my passion drives me to believe that everybody in the lab will wear their safety glasses without me having to tell them. And a little bit of real-world experience that I got, a little bit of an awakening, about 2 months ago, I got a call from my mom. And she told me that my dad, who is 65, not a young 65, he is not running marathons, repaving driveways, he can barely find the bathroom in the dark. He slipped on a latte that one of his coworkers dropped and broke his shoulder. My first reaction was, where were the wet floor signs? What, did they not clean it up properly? This has got to be a workers' comp case. And then I paused and said, Dad, are you okay? My second reaction was that of a concerned daughter. There are 5 things that I just told you about my personality. 1, fantastic driver. Award-winning. I just won't tell you the awards, I'd probably win. Short order cook. I am the best mac and cheese making PB&J sandwich artist in the town. 3, I am a very lucky wife. My husband is perfect for me. And he should be. He didn't come out of a box like that. It took me 8 years to get him. 4, I am a very, very blessed mother of a 5-year-old princess and a 2-year-old little boy who is just as fussy as his 32-year-old dad, so he's got that going for him. And last, I am a graduate student. Sleepy, sometimes confused, yet extremely happy graduate student.
Thank you, Courtney. I'll never look at the Chicago drivers like the same again. My kid's favorite saying in Chicago is, Chicago, let us go. We got stuck from 5.5 hours from Beloit to Gary pulling the camper. It was not a fun time at all. But 1 minute to do the evaluation. Okay, next we're going to have Chris come up, and he's going to continue with our Moments of Serious Truth, and this is number 2. So he's requested 10 to 12 minutes, and he's actually requested the buzzer be used when his time is up. So we'll welcome Chris.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we'll need the buzzer. I've noticed that Stacy's not here. She's the inquisitive one, so I love her questions. But I think you guys will point out a little bit. Help keep me on track. Moments of truth. One of the fundamentals of Toastmasters is evaluation. Constant evaluation of our club and how we work together and welcome new people. it is my opinion, and I hopefully think that it is shared by others, that as a club, we excel at greeting new people and being very welcoming. I wish I knew the exact numbers, but we have at least 5 new members since this summer. Awesome, 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 especially when we hear stories about how other clubs struggle to find members. So, thank you for being here and joining. However, I think there are some things that we could do better. This module of the Moments of Truth is membership orientation. Sometimes just little basic things slip through the cracks. Like, should we be when to clap, when to shake hands. And another thing that we do pretty well at is assigning a mentor. Just out of curiosity, do we have one for Courtney yet?
I have sent a note out to see if
Okay.
anyone would like to be Courtney's, so if you're interested in that, let me know.
Okay. It does take a few minutes because we're all thinkers. We're all very deliberate. And that will happen. But sometimes how do the mentors know what needs to happen? I certainly didn't. In fact, I'm constantly reading my manual to pick up tips and tricks that I wasn't taught myself right before I go to a meeting with Andrew. I'll probably do that again this Friday. Same thing for numbers. I have at least a dozen returns, and we all got high marks on this, but there were a couple of wishes for clarification, like the learning needs assessed. I don't know if most of you think that you're doing self-assessment, but one of the tools I read about is doing that via a survey to help us understand if your needs are being met. So learning needs being assessed was primarily the largest issue that we had, where we sometimes meet the standard. And another big question was the membership pins. I don't know, I haven't seen anybody else's membership pins. I think we strictly stick to the achievement pins. And what, for whatever reason, the founders did that, I don't know. But the membership pins, I have not been really a priority. It's been the achievements. I will say that I think with Courtney and her both feet forward in, you just skipped right over our wonderful and invigorating formal induction. But I think it's safe to say, everybody clap. Let's give her the official clap. I'm pretty sure. Wait. I'm getting.
You're ahead of yourself.
Am I ahead of myself?
Yes, so as part of announcements today, I was hoping, we actually have 2 inductions. Courtney's,
Well.
which is very recent, and
Hiwa.
Hiwa
We
has not been formally inducted. So can we do that at the end of the meeting, if time allows?
absolutely.
Okay, very good.
So there is a formal induction, it's very rigid, we vote.
It's strict.
You don't get taken out of the room, we vote, yes.
See, this is an evaluation moment of truth right here. We need to get on the ball a little bit more on some of these things. And learn how to apply that and applaud when we have new members that are very enthusiastic and gifted. You might have a very good foundation, and thank you for joining. First question.
So, on the learning needs assessed, I gave it a poor rating because I don't know what that means because we've never done it. I mean,
Right.
like a person does their own, but if they're mean the club is supposed to assess learning needs, then if that's part of like our club quality standards. We don't do that now, so maybe that's something we need to add to our checklist or something.
Right, there, from what I understood when I first saw the first few low marks, is that there is a survey, mostly asking the members, what are your goals and where do you need help from the Toastmasters organization? What are the tools that Toastmaster has already established in the leadership tracks or the communication tracks? Where is your experience lacking in the club? That is what I have been able to find or to figure out from what that particular issue is. It is not necessarily something that is actively tracked by the VP of Education, but it is something that the club needs to assess and help apply that feedback to the mentors. One of the issues can be new members and mentors are unsure of their roles and responsibilities with each other. One of the ideas is to maybe have an informational lunch and go through the website, show everybody where all the materials are, show everybody how to check in, and find or navigate the websites. Because that is another thing that is lacking. How many of you know that there is a leadership checklist at the end of your competent leadership manual that tells you where you need to be and how many projects in that manual you need to get your competent leadership done? I found that by accident by flipping through when I was on a really long wait for the shuttle bus. I'm like, oh, this would be handy to know. Some very fundamental things did get lost in my experience, and I'm trying to prevent those from getting lost in my mentorship relationship. Any other questions? Those are the two main points that I found was the learning needs assessed. We do very well with the speaking roles assigned. I think we have a broad enough base that we're getting a lot less need for substitutions. And when those needs do arise, we have more members to help step in and fill those missing roles. And even if you gave it a 4, is there anything else that anybody would like clarification on?
What are the 6 or 8 topics again, Chris? Categories. I think I left that one. Yes, thank you. The first impressions was done last time. This one is membership orientation. Next will be fellowship, variety, and communication. That one asks if guests are greeted warmly and made welcome in enjoyable and educational meetings planned, regularly scheduled social events, members participate in area, district, and international events, inter-club events encouraged, and club newsletter and website published. Most of you have this, so I'll just read the bullet points. Number 4 is program planning and meeting organization. 5 will be membership strength. And 6 is achievement recognition. So there are a couple points that I have seen in each of those that as the facilitator of this talk, I'm going to be our own harshest evaluator. But this is great, over a dozen feedback letters. That helps me to know that membership involvement is fairly strong for our club.
Any other pieces of clarification regarding membership orientation? Would there be a desire to have a formal initiation or a formal workshop in going over the main points? Because Toastmasters has been around, their values sometimes get skipped over if you are strictly relying on the manual. Jenny?
Well, I'm not opposed to that at all. I think it'd be a good idea if we do it during a meeting. You know, it's so hard to catch everybody, and of course, as much as people want to, they're not gonna watch the video. So an alternate, or maybe a supplement to that, I might suggest is, and our executive team could work on this, is a mentorship checklist. For instance, I had the opportunity to mentor somebody, and I know I didn't go through the leadership checklist in the back of the leader. I know it's there, it's just not something I thought of. If I had had a checklist, I certainly would have covered it. And so I think that may be a good thing, because then we would know we'd get through the Toastmaster principles, and we know we'd check those things off. So it's just a thought, perhaps a mentor checklist, to make sure that as mentors, we are introducing new members to the club. If we don't get to that one meeting or hear about it for 6 months, that type of thing.
Right.
So just a thought.
Okay. Another thought that just popped in my head is for first-time mentors with a mentee, maybe an experienced club member kind of facilitates that first meeting as well.
Certainly.
We're at 12 minutes. True for one more question or comment? We'll go with Greg.
Greg,
this time.
yeah.
I was, one of the things that I've had trouble with in the first two weeks, following up with this, is that I don't really know what the club needs are, because I don't see a lot of what assignment or mentoring. I know I have a mentor, but I don't know if everyone else knows what they want.
And the conditions they are. Safe is almost as dangerous as not knowing what your car can do, driving too fast, and reading your phone. Because there's somebody, especially in fog. So to me, it is a good driver will know exactly what your vehicle is capable of handling and not handling, and a bad driver hops in and hits the pedals without thinking.
Been hearing the word experiment in many other instances, and that same word comes to mind from your table talk. I'm not sure I'm brave enough to experiment in that capacity, but maybe I'll try.
Thank you, Amy, for that. I couldn't volunteer because my definition of a bad driver is a low license plate.
Oh.
Naughty.
Naughty,
Put
yes.
us in the corner.
I will. No, this is our evaluation time. It's an important part. And so I will welcome Greg up.
Thank you, John. As your general evaluator, I will be leading the evaluation portion of the meeting here. Everyone is a member, so you're familiar with the construct of the typical meeting. I'd like to start by inviting up Joe to, no, I'm sorry, correction on that one. Maybe it would be Jen. Thank you. Sorry, Jen.
Thank you, Greg. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most importantly, Courtney. What a great speech. It was a great speech. I think most Toastmasters would agree, except for maybe the person giving the icebreaker speech, that the icebreaker speeches are one of the most fun speeches that we get to hear about, because we learn so much about our new members. In fact, that's one of the questions on the evaluation form is, how well did the audience get to know the speaker? Love the organization of your speech. Talking about mentors, my mentor, when I first started in Toastmasters, suggested organizing your speech, sort of outlining it in your head. You've got your main point, what your points are there, and I could certainly see that with you. You have your 5 main points and then your sub-bullets, if you will, all without having a mentor and not hearing that. So wonderful organization of this speech. This speech was so entertaining, too. Another question on here is, what strong points does the speaker already have? And as Chris alluded to, you're set up to be very successful, but some strong points you already have is your humor. You have a wonderful sense of humor. talking about your work with TB and education and the incurable disease that TB is, how you're a fun guy. That just got us wrapped right on that. And how often in the Midwest, at least in my experience, I don't hear a lot about bullet trains of love. And that me almost falling out of my seat in the back seat. So I just love your sense of humor. It's wonderful. It was entertaining, it was informative, as I said, we learned a lot about you. Very well organized and engaging. I mean, I was looking around the room and everyone was listening, they were engaged and wanted to hear your story, so great job. A couple other questions that are on the formal form here. Did the speech reflect adequate preparation? Please comment on the speaker's use of notes. I saw you had your speech prepared and I noticed that you set your notes down here, but I don't know if all of you noticed you didn't refer to them at all. I think I'm working on my 7th or 8th speech and I'm still struggling with my use of notes. So that was outstanding, very well prepared and no use of notes, so that's wonderful. Speaking clearly and audibly, I think everyone would agree. We could hear you, your voice was very loud, your vocal variety is good. Here's where I might make one recommendation is just to slow down a little bit. You had a lot of great information, a lot of good stories to tell, but you had time, so you could slow down just a little bit. And on that note, going back to your humor, again, outstanding. Pausing just a little bit between after you say one of the zingers. I mean, it gives us time to laugh a little bit more, but I think it will make it more impactful. That's being very picky, and it's very high critiquing of an icebreaker speech, but those were the only things I could come up with because the speech was so wonderful, so very nice job. On that note, I just want to say again, thank you for such an engaging, entertaining speech. We really enjoyed it.
I'd now like to invite up Ryan to review Chris's speech.
So this is my second time evaluating Chris's presentation.
Oh, you poor thing.
So I think I got it down this time. One thing that I really enjoy listening to Chris speak is his deliberate use of words and his very calming pace. That's actually something I'm going to try to work on going forward, is really trying to slow things down and think about what I'm trying to say and pick the right words. That's something I noticed that Chris does very well. He did it well when he was facilitating here, and he's very deliberate. One thing I noticed with his hand gesture that I got a kick out of a little bit was his political hand, his political thumb. And when I'm practicing my speeches in front of my wife, I'll sometimes do that, and she always likes to make fun of me. So, you know what, are you a politician? So, but I like it. It's deliberate, it shows force and power, and it really emphasizes the point that you're trying to get across. So I really like the political thumb. Another thing that I really enjoyed was your use of space. You walk around up here a lot, which is good. It gives us all a chance to get up close to you. You're not just stuck in one spot. So I really like that use of space. As far as the facilitation went, you started with the positives of what people were suggesting in their surveys. And then you went into areas of improvement where people listed maybe lower scores, and you spoke on those topics. And you also provided explanations, which I thought was great. Some of those areas, maybe some of us didn't quite fully understand what those questions were asking. So having those explanations really, I think, helped clarify a lot of issues with the survey. And so I like those explanations. And then, of course, the recommendations and solutions I thought were great. And you also allowed everyone enough time to chime in and ask questions and then answer those questions with possible solutions. I thought you gave everyone enough time for answering questions. As far as areas for improvement, there were times when I thought you did get a little quieter. That could have been because you had your paper in front of you, or maybe you just were internalizing a little bit. So maybe just focus on keeping that speech elevated, that volume elevated. I counted 1 ah and 1 But I thought you did a great job. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate your thoughts and suggestions. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now I'd like to invite up Joe.
It's nice to be so popular that you get invited twice. Well, there was an right there.
Oh.
And I did hear a couple, but not too many. Wasn't distracting. Courtney, your speech was a charm. And I'm going to make the only correction that anybody can make to you. You did say one thing that I wouldn't like to hear. You said, me telling. Maybe it should be my telling. But your speech was such a delight. I just want to thank you for telling us all about it. And except for that, I thought we had some very good speeches today. Thank you very much.
Joe, did we use the word incurable? Did you track our
Oh,
use?
I did hear it a few times.
Okay.
And again.
Thank you.
It's hard to pick a word that people will actually use, but I think that one's almost on the edge of being okay.
Thank you, Joe. Now I'd like to invite up Iowa to give our timers report.
This is today's time report. For inspiration, Tanya, you spoke for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. First speaker, Courtney, you requested 5 to 7 minutes. You spoke for 5 minutes and 5 seconds. Second speaker, Chris, you requested 10 to 12 minutes. You spoke for 13 minutes. Include all the questions and answers. The table topic, Chris, you spoke for 1 minute, 47 seconds. And for general evaluation, the evaluator 1, Jennifer, you spoke 2 minutes, 50 seconds. Brian, you spoke for 3 minutes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Iowa. Now I'd like to give you a general evaluation of the meeting. The meeting started on time, Joe, or John, sorry, thank you for that. I've got Joe on the brain. I thought that the meeting was well organized. You followed the agenda nicely. Even though it was a bit of an unconventional meeting with club business of sorts versus a particular project speech. All of the memorabilia was displayed appropriately. The meeting flowed well, and I thought was managed well by the role players. I'd just like say a little bit of feedback to the speakers, to Courtney and to Chris. Courtney, I thought your incurable confidence is something that will play out through all the remaining speeches that you have. Is something I think you mentioned last week as being an asset of yours. I'm sure you'll use it appropriately. And then Chris, it was really evident that your passion for improving the club and making this the best experience for everyone involved was really evident during your speech. And I think
Thank you, Greg. I'll quickly go over the roster for next week, and then we'll have Amy do voting of the 2 new members. Next week, Derek is a Toastmaster, Shelley's a grammarian, timer is Greg, humor is Sarah, speaker 1 is Kaylee, speaker 2 is Andrew, topic master is Stacy. I'm the general evaluator. Evaluator 1 is Degante, and evaluator 2 is Joe. And then a reminder that we'll have 2 weeks off for the for Christmas and New Year's. So,
No, just one.
No.
just one?
No,
Is
both.
it two?
Yep, because New Year's is in this next week, so any week there's a holiday, there's no meeting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, we'll have Amy come up and do the voting of the potential new members.
So there is this minor formality, those of you who have signed up as new members, that we do a formal induction, and don't worry, it's painless. The most that we ask you to do, I'm sorry, John, maybe, I don't know what you do with them out in the hallway, but Iowa and Courtney out to the hallway and we'll vote as a club whether we accept your membership or not. So, one comment I just wanted to make, Iowa joined our club, I believe, the beginning of last month. So it has been a duration of time that she's actually been a member here. So that's on me for not getting the induction done prior to today. But I thought with Courtney joining in, perfect timing, we'll take care of both of them.
Just a quick comment on that. Should we be doing inductions when the paperwork is handed in?
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify.
Well,
Or the week after, whenever.
week
If they
after,
hand it in after a
The week
meeting, it
after.
has to be the week after, so
I think it
whenever.
should-
yes,
Okay.
yeah, not at that moment,
Not while
but we
they're in
need
the
to get
room.
it in, get it processed, and then. Is that fair?
Yep.
So we have to hoot and holler and applaud.
So
If
let me
we-
do one at a time. So Kiowa, can we induct Kiowa in as an official member of our club? And as our second member, Courtney. So, it is official. You are now members of High Nooners Club, and thank you very much for joining us. I do have one other announcement, if I could take one other small moment, and John, have you come forward? So the theme of the day is mentorship, and I was very fortunate to be John's mentor when he joined our club. And I wanted to take a moment today, and I don't have the pin on me, it's in the back of the room, so after our meeting is closed, I will be awarding John his 10 speeches. He has completed his CC manual, and in honor of that recognition, the club will be providing a pin for him, which you can proudly wear and display. So John, it's an honor for me to have been your mentor, and I hope to see 10 more fantastic speeches from you coming in. Congratulations.
Very good. Do any of the other officers have any announcements? Okay. This concludes the meeting. Thank you for a great meeting. I'll always remember about the Illinois drivers. And we'll see you all next week.